welcome to Outrageous. And he's survived a week. He's been inundated by requests not to return, but all right, he's back. And welcome, Lee. I believe now it's just as cold. Have you turned your fire off?
No, honestly, whatever the date is, I know it's sometime in the summer in Britain, but you don't know because you can't define the days. It is absolutely pouring down with rain still. And yes, we have the central heating on more or less 24 hours a day. It's beautiful. You should move here.
No, thank you. Next question. Listen, you've had a postage letter sent to your letterbox, and it's from our delightful friends, the BBC.
Yeah.
Now, not only have they brought the grannies back into this hideous amount of money you pay for 4 channels, basically, and the iPlayer, which is the same 4 channels. Unless you're in Scotland, you get your own channel and Wales and whatnot, but not much interest to anybody else. But not only do they want their basic fee off you, they want £1,000. Now, you're of a certain age, not quite at that age yet, for a free license, not that that exists anymore. But they're charging you because you're a business. Why?
I have no idea. I have absolutely no idea. I bought this house, I think it was, well, in the very late 80s. It used to be the village store. It stopped being the village store in I think it was actually the 80s, the beginning of the 1980s. So how long ago is that? That's 80, 90, 100, 100. That's nearly 50 years ago. It was a business. It's never been a business since then. Never, ever, ever. 50 years. And now they've written to me, not in excuse me, we've had a report. Would you mind if we check with you? Just saying, basically, like a monopoly board, you go straight to jail, pay this fine, or go straight to jail. You have customers. Your customers, what we're selling. I'm not pursuing that. But I'm selling nothing. The customers, staff. I don't want staff. I've got a wife. Why would I have staff? Supposed to get shot for that as well now. And staff are watching television in my commercial premises. And so they've threatened me. They want £1,000 fine off me. And they're going to take me directly to court. And they're going to throw away the keys. I'll never be allowed to watch television again. Won't even be allowed to listen to the radio. They hate me for no reason at all. I don't have a shop, you stupid people.
Well, this is a Big Brother as usual. They don't care who they find. They're not interested. They just send these letters out willy-nilly, whoever he might be. And yes, we wish you well on this because you're going to be fighting them for years and years. Perhaps you can grind them down.
Well, it's just, it really is. Now the situation, proof I've got a business. See what it is. Now something's just struck me and never ever crossed my mind. Now think about this. I think I've sussed it. There you are, 2 major journalistic minds coming together, and I sussed it. I did. What I've been doing, as you know, we are selling the contents of our house, which is our furniture and our, clothes, everything, because we're emptying the house because we put it up for auction. And you know what? We've been putting it on eBay. Some of it has been going on eBay. Now, what are the new rules that have just come in with eBay? That if you take more than, I can't remember what the figures are now, but a few £100, maybe £1,000, then you will be reported to the government as a business operating in the second-hand dealership marketplace, and they will be in touch and you'll have to pay tax. I think that's what's happened.
It sounds reasonable. It is Big Brother after all then, because the more information, data that flies around, the more people pay for it and get people innocent like your good self.
Innocent, not abroad. I am an innocent, not abroad. Yeah.
Well, you will be the way you're going again. Listen, we've got to move on. You have our best wishes.
Thank you
to
very
cope
much.
with that. Yes. Well, so much is happening politically, Lee, at the moment. It's just not true. And that's probably the right phrase. It's just not true. And who do you believe? None of them.
No.
Farage has got this recent poll saying he's actually ahead of the Tories. Will he do a deal with them? The whole thing's a nonsense, because the most he can expect, even though he's 1% ahead of the Tories now, is probably 3 or 4 seats. That's not going to do him much good. So they're talking behind and in the corridors. Let's do a deal with the Tories, because the Tories ain't going to get in. That is clear to everybody. Now, we know the polls are not always accurate, because if you get a poll, the first thing you ask yourself, which newspaper commissioned it? Because you'll take about 20% either way. You're not going to get any pro-Tory from The Guardian or The Mirror. You're not going to get any pro-left from right-wing papers like The Mail. So do take that into account when you look at the figures, everybody.
Well, yeah, you do have to put a caveat on that. Newspapers don't necessarily commission their own polls. They do, of course they do. But polls are usually carried out basically by Mori and by other polling organisations. And the polls are generally seen as a representative of that number of people, usually only 100 people, 500 people, maybe 1,000. So they're not accurate. What they tend to do is just give you a sort of essence of the way people are feeling at that particular moment when they're asked the question, i.e. why Farage at this moment is doing so well. Because it's a gut or a knee-jerk reaction to the way that nice Mr. Sunak and that idiot, that nice Mr. Karma are doing. Yeah, it's just.
Well, that's interesting, because there was a Snap poll after their recent ITV appearance, and I thought Sir Keir was really bombastic and didn't do himself any favours. And Rishi was almost a lapdog, and people, felt sorry for him. And I thought, well, at least, he'll win the debate. No, he lost it, Rishi did, big time, almost 1/3 to 2/3. And I thought, I don't trust these polls.
It's the problem is with both Sunak and Starmer is the fact that they are both middle-class lisping idiots, and neither of them really have anything powerful to say. Sunak's gone out there and he's too small. So how does a man of his stature actually manage to buy suits that are too small for him? Yeah.
Well, you can tell that from the tightness of his trousers below the knee. It's peculiar, isn't it? Perhaps he likes tight trousers.
On other people, I don't know. Yeah, it's just that. But that takes nothing away from the debates. But he has come across, particularly in the last 10 days, as very, very weak indeed. Somebody who really doesn't, this is my opinion only, who doesn't really grasp the reality of the situation he's in, i.e. his comment about not having Sky TV in his deprived childhood, which prompted me to write the headline, "No Dishy Sunak." Yeah, but that is what he sees as a crisis. When he was telling people, I've had loads of crises in my life. My life has been nothing but crisis. And then he says, and one of the biggest crises was the fact I couldn't have Sky TV.
Well, yeah, deprived is the word.
Yeah.
Deprived childhood. Moving on, Amazon comes in for a lot of criticism at times, but other times they do a good job. Certainly they have in Spain, because they've got their own independent delivery men and they actually deliver their product the next day, or even the same day sometimes. The transport system in Spain for individuals is awful. You forget that. You don't complain about the post office in Britain. It is brilliant, believe it or not, compared with here. It can be 3 months before you get a letter and or a parcel. But because competition, that evil thing that the lefties don't like, is here with Amazon, it's revolutionized everything. And actually, the rest of the transportistas, you can work what that means out. And I'm going to talk about Amazon just for very briefly, because they're being sued by the Independent Retail Association of Great Britain, because they really have been naughty. Well, for decades, they've been pinching data and using it on their, in other words, they thought, well, who's buying in normal shops that particular television set or hairdryer or whatever? They have identified the best buys and the best complaints even, and they've been getting this information illegally without permission, and now they're in for £1 billion, not quite, but it's probably £500 million court case. This is important to the rest of us human beings, because again, the bully boys, the big boys, think they can get away with it. They can't. And we wish the Independent Retailers Association the best, because you don't always get justice in our courts. Depends how good your lawyers are. And I can't think of any better lawyers than Amazon.
It'd be interesting to see. I'm not sure how they've illegally, or suppose they've been, what they're accused of has actually happened. The gathering of information is just insane at the minute. But it's interesting what you're saying. Going back to the fact that, we were talking about where we've been selling our furniture, etc. And we've sold quite a lot of stuff, and a lot of it, as normal, was put on eBay, Vinted, those kind of sites. And what has murdered this kind of business now, which has become a business, mine isn't a business. I'm selling my own wear, stuff that I don't need. I'm moving out of a 15, more. If I'm thinking, I'm not 3 down, but say a 20-room house, 20 rooms full of furniture that I've gathered over the last 30 years. And I'm selling my own stuff. It's like selling your car. It's surplus to requirements. And the problem is we sell quite well because our prices are quite low, because we just want rid of it. We don't want a profit. We're not looking for that. The whole idea, really, for many people is buy furniture, buy it right. It's right for the house. The house is 300 years old. And if you get your money back at the end of the day, you've done really well. You've lived with your furniture for nothing for whatever number of years. We do not make a profit. We can't make a profit. I don't even know how much I've spent on it. But what is killing any sale, not for us, but for everybody in Britain, is the price of delivery. The cost of sending goods around the country. An ordinary, like a book, I haven't got one here that I've sold, but a book that size, just say, it's just a book. It's just a book. You might get £2. If you sell 10 of them, you might get 20 quid. 20 quid's all right. So quick, nip out for the afternoon. But when you have to pay £5 to send that book to the person who's just bought it, suddenly your sale has gone up from £2 to £7. It is outrageous. Why would you pay £7 for a book that is just only worth a couple of quid? It's crazy. Now here you are, television people and taxmen. I am going to get in my car, which I bought with my own money, and go to a place called Hay on Wye, and I'm going to sell all my books. Now, what are you going to do? Are you going to have people there? I could give you a clue when I'll be there. Are you going to have spies there? Oh, he's just sold a book for £3. That means he owes us what, Joe? Unearned cash? Is it unearned cash? Do I have to pay 40%? I don't know. I'm selling my book.
Well, yes, it really irks the average bloke and blokess if they are got for trivia. When you look at the billions, and I say that again, billions of stuff that has been just wasted, whether it be through the pandemic, whether it be through sub-postmasters, whether it be through the NHS.
Yeah.
Billions is going, and that's what they should be looking at. We shall move on. And I tell you what, we're going to talk about a subject that a lot of people hate because everybody finds the same problem. And that's when you lose a loved one, the worst thing you can have is bureaucracy dominating you. And I'm talking about probate. It's truly awful. They threaten you in certain stages, Lee. Has that happened with you?
It has, yeah. I think probate is something that we should look into in depth. But in principle, the situation is this. When you get railroaded into being the executor of a will, you're supposed to take it as an honour that you are a trusted member of the family. Yeah. No, don't treat, take it as a potential purgatory. The circumstances we're in, it's not really worth going into at this minute, but it might be at some stage. But the principles behind it all are very simple. We have to find every coffin bit of paperwork. We have to find out if there are any hidden wills, anything at all to do. We have to find out. Luckily, by default, I am what you would class as a detective, as an investigator. That's what I am, an investigator. So I don't find it that difficult. But there is a principle which people are falling foul of every single day at the moment. And like you say, if you've lost somebody you cared about, you really don't need this kind of hassle. It's not happened to me yet. I don't think it will happen to me, but this is the principle. You have, as executor of that will, 3 months to pull everything together and present the probate to the registrars and the taxman. They will then use your figures to work out inheritance tax, how much inheritance tax is owed, if any, on the estate. It's doubly compounded by people, or complicated for people, by the fact that both, just say it's your parents, your dad had an allowance against inheritance tax of £350,000. So did your mother. Now, when your dad dies, if your mother uses his inheritance tax against it, allowance, then you're reduced to 350,000. If they don't use it, you could actually have 700,000. But nobody tells you that. The taxman ain't going to tell you that. Nobody's going to say you've got to find that out, possibly through a solicitor who will charge you up to £900 to tell you that. So it gets to be a very, very expensive business. But the crunch is this. And like I say, we could go into this more deeply at some stage. As executor of the will, not only are you responsible for any mistakes in that will for 6 months after that will is sanctioned. And the major problem is that you as executor, no matter what your financial circumstances are, can fall for the whole of the inheritance tax owed on your loved one's estate. And it can bankrupt you. It does bankrupt you. There are cases of it doing it all the time. Now, the taxman is fairly sanguine about this, apparently, but take them on, try it. they will first of all start to penalise you with fines, penalties. So if you owe £250,000, if there's £250,000 tax to be paid on your inheritance, you could be paying, I think it's 8% a month on that whole amount. So one way or the other, once you become executor to that will, you are responsible for everything, finding every coffin spit of debt, every potential will, every potential bill, every potential bank account, everything with premium bonds. The list is endless. And if you don't do it properly, then you will face fines against you personally. If you make mistakes which delay it, you will face fines. You will then also be responsible for any mistakes made in that will. If somebody's been left out of the will, if there's somebody you don't know exists and they come along and make a claim against that will, you are responsible for that. You will be fined. But the worst part is that you potentially might have to empty your bank account and sell your house even to pay the inheritance tax on somebody else's money because you took on the executorship of that will. It is an absolute minefield and scary. If you get a chance, don't do it. If it's a substantial amount of money, pay a solicitor. Might cost you £50,000, £60,000 to do work that might be £5,000, but by whatever that word is, I'm not going to say, it will keep you out of prison, it will keep you out of court, it will keep you out of penury, it will keep you out of bankruptcy. Crazy, man.
Well, I am mad about things like this because the bully boys, HMRC, have got the temerity to say this. And at the same time, they say, don't ring us for 6 months because we aren't going to answer the phone.
Yeah.
That is wickedness. And there they are telling you what to do.
Yeah.
What penalties should they face by not answering the phone for 6 months?
There aren't any. I don't believe there are. There must be penalties. I've never been in a position where I tell you what, I did once get a penalty. I did win against a government body and got compensation. And I'll tell you very briefly about that. I've got to hold my hands up. I am a divorced man. I have children. I was taken by the CSA, by the Child Support Agency, I was paying for my children before they were even born, but the CSA didn't count that. And they came on to me, they chased me for years, months, saying, well, you see, Mr. Banks, we only take away your pleasure money. I don't have any pleasure. I work nights. I'm on the morning newspaper. What pleasure have I got? Watching Judge Judy and The Simpsons in the afternoon. And, anyway, it went on. And they got the assessment against me so badly wrong that I ended up out of work. I couldn't afford. It was costing me, at that time, I think it was costing me about 80 quid a week to travel from the village of the damned to the city because it was a city morning newspaper. And it cost me that. I had a mortgage of 800 quid. I was left with nothing. I couldn't exist. I actually said, so what happens if my car breaks down? So, well, you'll have to borrow the money. I said, well, what if I can't borrow? I haven't got any friends. And so it went on. Ultimately, I made a complaint, pursued them. I did it for damage to the quality of my life. I got the doctor to give me a letter saying how depressed I was, that it was reactive depression. So they'd ruined my life. They'd cost me my career. They'd picked it up again, obviously. They potentially could have cost me my house. And it just went on. And I got compensation, right?
Well, there's lots of people that wouldn't even pursue it, Lee, because A, they don't know the ropes, and B, they think, oh, it's too much trouble.
Yeah, exactly. And at the end of the day, for a lost career, a ruined life, mental health problems, and whatever else, do you know what I got?
Oh,
£67.
Well, that is a bit over the top, isn't it? That much? How did they calculate that?
No idea. No idea. It's actually, when we move around the house at some stage, it's in a picture frame on the wall. Yeah, against my Las Vegas winnings, next to them, which came to 3 cents. So
Yes, at least it was on the right side. Well, the other thing one must mention about probate is the insurance matter. You will get a very nice lady ringing you up saying, "Oh, I'm so sorry this has happened. Can we help you further with your insurance and continue the insurance on the house, which may be for sale, for instance, and is empty while it's sold?" And they give you magnificent cover, don't they?
They do. It's quite incredible. We had cover on the house that we're now administering. They had cover on that property and had it for, I have no idea. Just say, just as a notion, 30, 40 years, or maybe even longer. And when the final entity within that family setup passed on, we thought about the house insurance, and we phoned them up. Quite honest, quite straightforward, and went to the bereavement service, which is very nice. I'm so sorry to hear about your circumstances, Lee. Why? Because somebody's died. Oh no, do they have to call me Lee when normally they call me Mr. Banks? Anyway, I suppose it's supposed to make me feel warm and cuddly. So then we said, well, yeah, right. So what do we do about covering the house? Say, no problem, no problem. We can continue to cover the house for the same amount of money, which I think then, I don't know, was just say 40 quid a month, right? For the 40 quid a month, they covered the house for everything: flood, fire, theft, the exterior for falling down, whatever, killing your neighbour because your chimney pot fell off, whatever was covered. So for the same amount of money, they will continue the cover. I said, that's brilliant. What do you actually cover us for? And she was very excited, and you could feel her leaning into the phone. She said, well, Lee, what I'd like to tell you is you will be covered, if a plane falls out of the sky and hits your house, you're covered for that. That was very nice. It's not on a flight path. I can't think of any plane that ever fell out of the sky in any of the houses in that area. And she said, you'll also be covered for earthquake. So that's nice. That's nice. I actually don't think it's in an earthquake area either. And the third thing that it's covered for is if a vehicle leaves the road and goes through the front of the house, or the back of the house, I assume, or the side of the house, or takes a big leap and goes through the roof of the house. And so I explained, well, it's not on a main road. It's on a really quiet little backwater. There's probably 3 cars a day use it. And there was nothing I could do. She was very apologetic. And so now a dead person's house is covered for being hit by an aeroplane, being driven through by a truck, or an earthquake hitting it.
Well, the insurance companies are crafty, and basically there's no risk to them. And for them to charge you the same premium is wicked. There is a mitigating circumstance here, as an insurance broker, that I understand and have some sympathy, is that the burglaries, etc., have really gone wild in the United Kingdom. And that's mainly because plod doesn't plod anymore in your district. And therefore, an empty house is an open invite. But, you know, there are ways around it, even if they ask to double the premium. But no, the easy way is to say, oh, we'll cover you. Thank you very much. But they cover you for nought. There's ways around that, Lee, and a decent insurance company would find a way around it, because you can always insure any risk on this earth.
Absolutely. It's like, I did say so. What's up? Well, do us a favour. Don't cover me for a plane falling on my house. Don't cover me for a truck driving through the front of it. And don't worry about earthquakes. Just cover me for theft and flood. And That elicited a little tinkle of laugh. Oh, you cheeky monkey. Oh. And I thought, yeah, so yeah, we'll sort it out. But why? I am not distraught by this death. It's that's all personal reasons. It has no grief effects on me. Oh, it's sad when somebody dies, etc. But I'm not going through the throes of grief. And but if you really are devastated, how do you cope with this? At what point do you go to your default mechanism, which is, I'll sort that out later. Leave that, I'll have to do that later. Why do they, when they say, oh yes, this is the bereavement, I'm so sorry for your circumstances and for your loss. How are you today, Lee? Then they tell you, yeah, we know. Yeah, I'll cover you for a plane fault going through your roof. What do you mean coming for burglary? What are they going to do? No, not a chance, man. Disgusting.
There's a story that is not going away. And it's Dr. Michael, who went to Greece with his family and suffered a horrendous event. He died.
Yeah.
But the more one digs, Lee, the more one is dissatisfied with the results and explanation. I thought, for one, oh golly, the person that inspected the body over in Greece was quick off the mark. Wouldn't happen in Britain that quick. I thought, oh well, one up for the Greeks there. But this guy, a medic. Now, there he was, clambering down this hillside, within spitting distance of a bar.
That's right.
And it took them 5 days to find him. 25 people were looking for him. Well, the first thing is there'd have been a darn sight more than 25 people in England looking for you.
Well, yeah.
So that's number one question. Number two question, allegedly he said, oh, I'm going for a walk, I don't feel very well. Now, you don't go for a walk if you're feeling very well in 40 degrees. So what that was about, I don't know. He had an umbrella over his head, but it was a black one. That enhances the heat. And the other thing, of course, is when you have a temperature of 40 degrees being in the shade, in the sun, it's a lot hotter than that. Secondly, there's a lot of limestone type stones in that region. They don't half reflect the heat.
Yeah.
And when you see a Grand Prix driver driving around the track and you get the track temperature of 35 degrees or so, really, it's several degrees higher.
Yeah.
My guess is that, golly, forget 40, it was a darn sight in reality more than that. Now, he had a bit of water, he had no mobile phone, all sorts of things have kind of gone on, but I think something's going to come out of this because there's too many odd things happening here.
It's strange he wasn't found. I think when you say that in Britain you would have had more people out there looking for him, bear in mind they wouldn't even have bothered for 3 days. It's an adult who's vanished. They could have decided something. I think it's 3 days before they'd even consider it, unless there's a panic, unless there's a real panic. The fact that he had made it or had ended up so close to a bar where, in fact, just by looking over the fence, his body could be seen, albeit hidden by rocks, etc., is again something concerning. If the path ran that way, surely it's one of the first places you would look at. I just don't. I don't know whether there is something mysterious about it. I think the mystery may lie in the fact that he was a very clever bloke and understood exactly what rigors he would be putting his body through by doing what he was doing. And I'd rather believe that it was just a set of very sad, tragic circumstances that got him. But quite feasibly, you know, it could be something else, because it has been presented strangely, and the fact that it was a journalist who found the body, he obviously will make a lot of money out of the original photographs. That can't be what it was about. That just really genuinely doesn't happen. But yeah, what the truth will be, I do not know. But I don't think there was any indication on, certainly nothing's come out, that he was suicidal or wanted to end things. Certainly that surely would be out by now anyway.
Yeah, very possibly. I'm going to go on to another mystery. We think we've got lots of people coming over the channel, and we get very, quite rightly, upset when these people die. Who we should be upset with, principally, is those that take £5,000 a time off them to get them over in craft that are not craft.
Yeah.
But we know nothing in the United Kingdom. Let's go to the big outside world, and not very far away. We'll go to Spain. We'll go to here.
Yeah.
I'll give you some stats that will shake you. In the first 5 months, the amount of illegal immigrants coming over the water here to Spain, 5,400 deaths. 33 a day are dying trying to get to Spain. That puts things into a bit of perspective, I would suggest.
It does, yeah.
Every 45 minutes, one dies. Now, one has to say, most of them are trying to go into the Canary Islands. Now, that's the Atlantic. And when you talk about the little channel compared with the big waves of the Atlantic, you can see why. But they still do it, West Africa to the Canary Islands. Some of them have been found washed up in the States and South America, dead, of course. It's a horrible trade. The other place they like going to from West Africa is Mallorca.
That's right, yeah.
And those come into the figures. The rest of them come through the Straits of Gibraltar, the Albarán, the sea is called. And it's a bit of a dodgy sea that it kicks up very quickly. That's only about 10-ish miles across, 8 to 10, depends how you get there. Now, it's a problem for many countries. Italy as well have got far bigger problems than the United Kingdom. But we've all got problems on this, and we all try and get round it. But I tell you the biggest block in all this, because Spain has got a proverb. When the law comes out, you find a way round it. That is very Southern European, not Northern European. Yeah. So when they come over, and I've mentioned this before, from the shortest route, they get put in an open prison, barbed wire, the whole lot. And they're kept for a week, and they get washed and showered and fed, and they're on the next boat back to West Africa. Now, how can Spain do it when we meekly say EHCR? That's the block.
But the answer is very simple. We have a totally different attitude towards immigration and humanity. And,
come back to bite us, Lee. It's coming back to bite. It's coming back to bite us.
Well, it's something that we've started to pay attention to now because it's grown so massively. I don't think you can really do justice to a subject like this without giving a full show to it. Well, the simple fact is that we live in a very, very cruel and very warlike world, and humanity is not safe in its own habitat, which is the world. And because everything that we do is based on money, greed, and basically expansionism, people become victims, and these are the victims that that then start to look for elsewhere. And countries like Britain did have one of the best, most humane policies towards immigration and people who were fleeing despots. Unfortunately, it started to be taken advantage of basically by criminals. And the criminals now who can make absolute vast fortunes. We're talking about becoming millionaires within months. Will take every chance they can to perpetuate their earnings. And that unfortunately costs lives. Why these people who, and this is what amazes me, why these people who can afford to pay £5,000 per person to get on a leaky boat and go across the channel, why, if to say there's three of them, just say it's 15 grand, say they've got £20,000 to spend, do you know, you could get a taxi.
Yes, you can certainly get a plane ticket.
Of course you could. So there is, then you've got to start looking at what is the reason that doesn't happen. Paperwork obviously is the right things, treaties and everything. There are barriers. And what people were doing by using the criminal fraternity were trying to break through barriers that were building up. And what's happened now is the barriers have built up and built up. The Rwanda thing, that little Rishi Sunak came up with his colleagues, which I know came up before him, was just shamefully ludicrous. And it's to itemize, oh, well, it works for that country, it works for them. That's nothing to do with it. You have to start it's like having a boil, and it will not go away, and it gets bigger and bigger. You can't keep squeezing it and chucking it away and wiring. That's it, because it still comes back. What you've got to do is find out what the root cause is, and the root cause begins very often in places, and this is incendiary, and I like Albania, but a lot of it begins with Albania. And that is a country which is so poor, so incredibly poor, that actually riches are there to be grabbed. And that's one way that people are grabbing it. You can't blame people for wanting to improve their lives in a despot country. You can blame the people who come across and are taking the mickey out of it. Of course you can. There are a lot of people who just do it because they want to. But that's just the humanity. We're just all human beings with great fallibilities. Yeah.
I'm a very simple person on things like this. You're welcome to come, but go through the routes you're supposed to go through. Apply
Absolutely.
to the Foreign Office. Show your passport. Show what you can do for us. Full stop. Everybody else go away. But we both know the real problem is not the boat people. The real problem is the university situation. The universities have to earn a big living. So we will go for nail cutting degrees and invite anybody in from any part of the world and their families. I'm sorry, Tony Blair, you started all this lot off.
He did,
and what's he doing now? Well, I'll tell you what he's doing now. He's getting in charge of the world. Davos man. World Economic Forum man. He's got all the money and he wants us all to be in the same situation, dumbed down. People are waking up to that fact, Lee.
Yeah, Tony Blair, in so many ways, was the changeling that altered everything politically. He was our first real middle-class Tory Labourite. His policies were so beyond what you would expect, and in a way at the time that came across as a good thing. People were excited by it. People could see a different way of being. He presented a character. He wasn't the old fusty pipe smoking Harold Wilson type or the Jim Callaghan, deep, very thoughtful kind of person. He was the big, wafty, happy-go-lucky, happy person, happy-clappy, plays guitar, all that kind of rubbish that actually hid a mass murderer and a warmonger who went with America on false information and sold that information to us. And for many, many people, they believed him. And the idiocy of this country is they still believe him today. That man who ultimately became a peace envoy, yeah, and is now running the world at Davros, like you say. What is wrong with us as a race of beings that we can't see through people like him and all the other despotic, bizarre, strange, idiotic people who are trying to destroy everything from the media to democracy in our world?
If that is not a war crime he's committed, I don't know what is.
What can you say? Yeah, what can you say? Yeah, what about his American counterpart, whose name's now escaped me because I never think about him anymore? Yeah, what did he do? He sat there in the school. One of his people came up to him and said, "Oh, they've just blown up the Twin Towers." Oh, and he went, "Oh, so what are you writing in this book?" Didn't even compute with him for a while. Then it did. So what was his first thing he did? He got his friends out of America before and his friends happened to be, or some of his friends happened to be, Bin Laden's family. And why did he get them to leave the country before they took action? It is one of the most heinous periods of world history ever. And it's now being ably helped by the ineffectual Titchy Sunak, the lisping, donkey-loving Keir Starmer, and the lying, cheating Boris thingy, and the man whose name shall not be mentioned because he'll get really angry. That bloke called Trump, but don't tell him I said it.
Well, yeah, we won't bore you with that today, but just one fact about Trump: there were no wars like we've had during his reign, nor would there have been if he'd have been still in power. Let's see what happens in November. Listen, we're running out of time, but there are some certain things we can't let go.
Go on,
First of all, dead simple, politics is in a right mess in Britain, as it is in America. And perhaps more so in Britain, because you've hinted at Tony Blair and the neo-Blairites, which are called Conservatives now. Basically, we've not had a Conservative government for a long time. Certainly Cameron and May, there was about a month and a half where we had a true Conservative, and she was not allowed to last. And now we've got Rishi. They're Liberals. And if you look into the Conservative Party, actually, it's split into 6. There's no hope they're going to get tanked in this election. Everybody knows that. So Nigel, your friend, pokes his head above as an opportunist and a businessman, and a good businessman. Right, go on then. I'll chance it for the 8th time. Surely they'll give me a seat, Clacton, that I'll be able to win. But he's stymied. The electoral system, as we both know, Lee, is appalling. And even if he gets 8 million votes, unheard of, comes second, he'd probably get 2 or 3 seats because he's not got the money like the Lib Dems have to get 30 seats in the same circumstance. That is as corrupt as you can get in a different kind of way. Now, Nigel is there on the hustings saying, I'm not interested in this election in July. I'm interested in 5 years' time. Maybe he's right. But I tell you what, we're not in Britain. We love Britain. And we'd like to come back to Britain one day. But certainly not at the moment. What a mess. And you think the Tories were bad? Just wait till Starmer's spots are revealed. It's going to be absolutely devastating.
I agree. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I hark back to the COVID crisis in Britain, where Boris, was running it. What Boris did during the COVID crisis, etc., is still out. And he did a lot of good, he did a lot of bad. He was advised badly, he thought he misinterpreted the advice. Then he started to do bad things, not stupid things. But all the way through, all you had was the steer karma in the background, just saying to whatever Boris did, oh, we'll help you with that, Boris. We can do that for you, Boris. I agree with you entirely, Boris. We thought of that. In fact, we suggested that to you. He had no policies. He had no chutzpah. He had no grand intention. And I do not see anything there as he stands there like a big bag of humanity. I was going to be so rude and I stopped myself. Yeah, as a human being, he stands there and still comes across without any great anything to instill confidence in him. I can't find anything that makes me say, well, all right, yeah, Rishi's a bit of a person, and Nigel Farage hasn't really got a chance. Maybe he will have in 5 years, but he hasn't at the moment. The Lib Dems, all the others, well, what are they? Nothing at the moment. They've got nothing. They're offering nothing. And if you end up with Starmer, we're talking about inheritance tax. Wait until there's no inheritance left because it's all got an inheritance tax. Wait until your council tax has gone up. Wait till everything. And wait till all of a sudden Mr. Starmer's donkeys are eating out of gold baskets in their field.
Yes, indeed. Right, come on, we've got to mention one thing and make everybody miserable. Before we go, World War III. Now we're in it. What?
Yeah.
Yes, we are. It's a very clever World War. Let's give a brief summation of it. USA is still king. Let's put that as first tab on the whiteboard. But a lot of people don't realise, if we talk nuclear weapons, USSR are way ahead of anybody. They've got the most sophisticated rockets, very quick rockets, most in number of nuclear weapons than anybody else. But you get to a certain stage when twice the amount of hydrogen bombs doesn't make much of an advantage when we're all dead. But they have got the hardware.
Yeah.
China, a significant player, has been very clever over the years and has made other nations dependent on it for goods. That's their play. And has put spies throughout the world, usually students in foreign universities, which we're stupid enough to take in, especially in Britain and America. Then there's places, little pockets like Iran and some of the Middle East states that have been doing nasty things and supporting nasty people, Hamas, for years. So, yeah, why is it World War III? Well, it's without bullets. Well, not in certain areas, as we know. No. But it's a cultural war. They're really winning. They're putting ideas into many nations and destroying our culture. Now, we can see that in Britain and America straight away.
They would say that we had destroyed their culture by trying to westernize everywhere. I don't think we're not culpable in these circumstances. And I really don't have respect for any side as being a journalist. I'm impartial. I don't respect anybody. And I said we were first in the Third World War when terrorism really took off. And we got ISIS, we got everybody, Hamas, we got everybody going and playing and killing us. And they're still doing it. Funny enough, isn't it funny how they stopped during COVID? I've never been able to work that one out, but they did. Terrorism more or less stopped during COVID. And I very often have wanted to investigate that, and one day I will. Anyway, so now you have terrorism, good return. You have Russia, which the whole of the attitude to winning back what they see as stolen land by the Western world is becoming very, very serious. People say Putin's round the bend. Could well be, but it doesn't stop him having the power and, like you say, the firepower to do that. And so you look at all the different, like say, Japan, China, all the pockets of hatred or insecurity or people who don't trust the Western world. And like you say, they're getting propaganda all the time about how bad we are. And so there is now this standoff, and all world wars begin like a news story. It begins locally and then grows and grows and grows. And in that way, a world war grows and grows and grows, but it grows imperceptibly. Generally, it's something, oh, Germany's just attacked France. Really? Forget about it. Oh, Germany's now attacked Poland. Oh, forget about that. Whoa, then Russia comes in, then America comes. So it all happens on a very slow basis. And what's happening now, we have a cyber war. We can do it all by computer. So we don't even see it happening. The two major clues that we were on the verge of a world war were sold in Britain as just as little sinecures. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, can we just do this? Nothing to worry about. It's just in case we have a landslide. And what they did, they arranged to phone everybody's mobile phone in the country to see what, to make sure they could get through. Oh, it's only in case we have a flood or there's a car crash somewhere within 100 miles of your house. No, nothing to do with nuclear war. But isn't that what you meant to do many years ago when we had Margaret Thatcher's Protect and Survive? No, nothing like it. So we had the telephone calls, and then we had everything else that started to come in. And now we were being told, think about storing water, think about storing food. Then the Protest and Survive document was reissued 30 years after its original, and it was still telling you, in case of a nuclear war, get under your table, grab your dog, put it on your head, no nuclear war, it'll get through its fur and it'll keep you warm. And then if you need to go to the bathroom, do it in your plant pot and things like that. It was outrageous, but those two things were there to warn us that things were far more dangerous than an earthquake, which you're insured for if one of your families died, a plane crash, which you're insured for if one of your family dies. But nobody mentioned nuclear war, just the fact that it might have been a car crash or it could be a flood. Crazy, man. Yes, I believe we are in the throes of the Third World War.
There you go. I can't stop this program without giving it a little light entertainment.
Oh, go on, then.
That light. I've got some stats. You know how I love my stats. And this is the most deadly transport in a list. And it's come from the British Transport. Right. So, it's good stuff. And they calculated, but somebody's once said very wisely, you can do anything with stats. This is a prime example. There is certain truths about it. But this is the number of deaths for every billion kilometers. Think about that. So number of deaths, which is the safest transport? Well, everybody knows the aeroplane is the safest transport per
unless it crashes.
Unless it crashes. No, this is including the crashes per kilometer. Now, the reason why you can easily get this out of perspective is that, of course, in an aeroplane, you do hundreds of thousands of miles over a period. So it does swerve it in its favour just a little bit. But I'll give you the figures. British Transport Commission figures. One death every 0.05 persons die for every billion kilometers. So in other words, you've got go on an aeroplane, you're not going to die. Well, it's very low. The next one, and this is it surprised me because 0.04 is an urban bus. So there's practically no chance of dying on an urban. Well, there's no urban buses anymore, I suppose. But if you stood up on a bus and it hits something, then you're in line for getting anyway. But those are the figures.
Yeah.
Then the next one on the list is a train. Very safe. That comes in at 0.6. Not as safe as a bus, but still safe. Of course, you've got the speed with the train, so if it comes off the rails, you stand more chance of getting damaged. And then a lorry, and it's only 1.2 per billion, but we've got some good lorry drivers. But there you go, it's 1.2. The next one, higher risk, is cars, 1.6 per billion. That's all right, that's good. Then another one that surprised me is boats, ship. Cruises, 3.1. That's a heck of a difference, isn't it?
Gosh, yeah.
So when you're paying your millions out to go on this cruise, make sure the sea's flat and there's no rocks around. So, but in real terms, it's not very much.
No, but yeah.
A bike, no, a pedal bike.
Yeah.
Now, don't forget, we've been talking 0 point something and 1 and 2, etc. 3. 44.6. Get off your bike, people. That's a heck of a difference. So it's dangerous. We know it in big cities. I aim for them. No, I don't.
Can I just interrupt on that? Well, surely, if those figures are true,
yeah, they are.
Yeah, it makes absolute sense not to give bikes to 3-year-olds, but give them a car. They've got far more chance of surviving.
Yeah, but they killed so many people, Lee, and that's not in this. Yes, this is, right. It gets worse.
Go on then.
On foot, if you're walking, it's transport. 54.2. So get on your bike. After all, it's safer. Makes you think. Be careful when you cross the road.
Yeah.
And lastly,
horses.
About what?
Horses.
Oh, I'm not covered. Nothing about horses.
Oh, safer.
Right. Yeah. Oh, they're dangerous. I can tell you that. I mean, it's not the fact of falling off; it's them falling onto you. They weigh a ton, and that's end of story.
I know. Need thin horses and children with cars.
Well, as well. And the last one I've got here. And parents, you're absolutely right. When your son says, "Oh, I can't wait to drive a car. I want a motorbike." No. 108.9. It's over 1,000 times more dangerous to drive. Yeah. But of course it is. Motorbike. Science, a motorbike.
Wow.
I mean, it's got 2 wheels. It's basically unstable.
Well, it is really, isn't it? Yeah.
And when you're dashing in and out of cars, as you do, as a young person, oh, I've got to get there quick. Then you scratch how many cars, goodness only knows. And then one day it catches up with you.
Yeah, I know. It's I've got to be honest. I have never ridden a motorbike in my life. I've been pillion passenger on one once, and that's it. That's it. I didn't fall off. Nothing happened. Nothing dramatic. But that's the only, and because I don't like them. I just don't like them at all. I find them very scary. That speed at 2 wheels.
Yeah, we used to be aficionados of the TT and the Isle of Man, and we used to regularly go over there. And we knew quite a few of the top drivers. We used to stay in the hotel with them. And it's world famous, the TT, for getting rid of people. I mean, the route is covered in dry stone walls. You don't hit a dry stone wall more than once. You've not got these straw bales. And you see the speed. And you look at the behavior of those 2 wheels, when they're getting over 150 miles an hour towards 200, it is truly frightening. And at times, people lose their head. The joie de vivre, the joy of life of overtaking something at a horrendous accelerated rate. And it kills you.
It is. And here's a question. As we're doing a light-hearted thing about how many people get
yes.
On the TT, it fascinates me because I do quite like watching it. for 30 seconds. You know, when they bank over on the motorbike, they go like
Yes.
that.
Mm.
Do you see I disappeared? That was very professional.
It was.
It went off.
I noticed that. You look better that. Mm.
But when they do it like that, they're going down like that. And that knee is that far off the floor. Do they have little wheels on the knees?
No. The real danger, of course, is the sidecar races, because the passenger will get that near the curve, that their chin is within millimeters of that curve to balance the bike, of course.
Yeah.
And why we stopped going to the TT is that Norma and I used to go. And one day, one event, there was no deaths, but there was a bad injury. And it was to Norma, who had got that excited about all the bikes coming through this fairly slow section at Glen Helen. She fell down the hill that we were looking and had to be treated by the ambulance man. That was the only casualty that year, I think.
Wow. I'll tell you, the one thing we did, and this put me off for life, nothing to do with motorbikes, but it was the Grand Prix, the very first Grand Prix to be held in India. And we attended that, all full of fanfares and everything, absolutely incredible. You'd never seen so many posh cars in the car park. It was incredible. We turned up in a tuk-tuk, but everybody else was turning up in Rolls Royces. And we sat there. We had a really top position looking down. There was Thicken Nackerman or whatever he's called, and all those people were there. And all we did was sit there for 3 hours until we fell out, actually, because we got that bored, just sitting there going like that. And then all of a sudden you just go, Phew! And you go back to that, and then Phew! Like that. And I have never, ever been so bored with anything. So we left early. We walked out on it. We actually walked out on the very first Grand Prix in India.
Can be a bit of a parade. We won't mention Monte Carlo, but that may well be taken off the list for the future. Wait, listen, we're way overspent, over time, and I hope you're not all depressed. You should be living in Britain. It's still lighting your fire time, freezing. This is flaming June, and well named.
We went out today. And we both had raincoats in the back of the car because we're very old now and we do things like that. We don't actually have a flask and a picnic basket and a chair so we can sit by the side of the motorway and have a cup of tea. Why do people do that? Why do they sit by the side of a motorway? But anyway, but we both had to put our raincoats on because it was that cold and that windy and wet.
Well, Nigel will not allow that. If he voted for Nigel, I'm sure he'd stop that.
Yeah, of course you would. He'd barrage ahead with it, wouldn't he? Yeah.
Boom. Yeah. We're going before he gets worse. See you next week.
Goodbye. Speak to you soon. Bye-bye.